All right, ratio, let's get into it. So first you want to dip your brush into your liquid. You want to get it nice and saturated, and then you're going to just take off the drippage. When you're trying to do a large bead, you see here I'm just taking off the little drip that comes with it before I dip it into my powder. Then I'm gonna bounce my brush into that powder, and boom, I have a large acrylic bead. Nice pearl round around the edges, and once I lay it down, it's not going anywhere. If it was a nail, I'll be able to mold it. For my medium bead, I'm going to take off the drippage, but you see I'm in the middle of the brush, so that way it takes off most of the liquid just so it can give me a medium-sized bead. I'm going to bounce it into the powder, and boom, a nice little pearl again, nice rounded edges, and there's my medium bead. Now my small bead, I'm going to go into my liquid, and then I'm going to, as you can see, I'm going to wipe the full brush, the liquid on the full brush, not too hard, just to wipe that drippage off. We're just wiping the drippage off. We do not want to press down, and we'll see that later on in the video. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So there's my small bead right there. I'm going to lay that right down. Look, large, medium, small, boom. Y'all bear with me. I really hate voiceovers. I love to explain this while I'm doing it, but I also like listening to music, and if I show my music, they'll censor me. All right, as you can see, I showed you how I'm bouncing the brush into the powder. You see how I allow my liquid, how much liquid I allowed in my brush. I allowed my liquid to pick up that powder, and that's what you want to do when you are trying to get a nice pearl. Again, even if I'm getting a small one, I wipe as much liquid as I wanted out of my brush, and I bounce it into that powder and just pick up what I needed for that nail. So you really want to be sure that you do that. You never want to just go straight into your acrylic or your powder, because as you can see, it goes on the other side of the brush, which is going to allow uneven wetness to the bead, I guess. Dry, wet, I don't know. Then you also don't want to just let your brush sit into that powder very, very long, because it's not enough liquid for that. You're soaking up way too much powder, and it's making it nice or not nice, but all crusty, and we don't want that. Also, you don't want to wipe your brush. This is the part I told you, wiping that brush over and over and over to get every ounce of liquid out, and then you dip your brush into that powder. Look how dry that bead is. Like, come on. Like, that's kind of common sense. Don't do that. We need our liquid in order to work our beads on our acrylic or on our nail. See, I can't even explain it, but you get what I mean. Look at that. Look how dry that is. Do not wipe that brush that much. You're only wiping off that drippage when you're doing it. Because look when I lay that bead down, that's not going to go anywhere. That's going to polymerize really, really fast, and it's crusty on the outside. It's a lot. So as you can see, I'm using the very hardest part of my brush to even bring that down. So, sometimes things happen. You take too much liquid out. Time is of the essence. Just continue to try to bring it down the nail, using liquid to make sure that you can bring it down as much as you can before you have to just kind of wipe off that bead and abandon it. But again, you're going to learn your ratios where you won't put a bead like that down. But if you ever have to, which I see a lot of nail techs, beginner nail techs put a bead like that down and keep trying to work it, but they're still not doing it right because they're using the very tip of the brush and it's not moving. So if you did have to put that bead down, as you can see, I'm using the hardest part of that brush. I'm kind of bringing it down as much as I can, if that makes sense. Right there, look at that. That's a nice bead. That's a beautiful bead, right? However, we put it way too far up the nail, so now we can't bring that down. Look how that just stays where it's at. Nice, got the good consistency, but it don't go all the way down the nail. That bead should have went farther down to the nail. Just because the rules say to put it in the middle of the nail, your first bead goes in the middle of the nail. If you didn't pick up a big enough bead, then no, just put it where it would go down the nail better. And if it don't, then as you can see, I put another bead right underneath it and I filled it in. So that's perfectly fine. Other than that, you're just using more beads than you would typically use. It could work, but if I had that small bead, that first one I did, I would have put it where I put that second bead at. That's where I would have started my nail that way instead. So that's just a tip I see a lot of that's just a thing I see a lot of beginner nail techs make, that type of mistake. And it's not a huge mistake, it's just costs too much time. Like, why do that? We can get a nice size bead like that. Boom, look at that. We're going to put it right above that because we want to be sure that our beads transition into one another. So that's why I said don't use a really small bead if it's not going to reach the end, or using a really small bead and putting it way above the previous bead, because then you're going to have a bunch of lumps and bumps. You're going to have to continue to keep grabbing beads and fill it in. You're going to have to keep doing that, and this just get frustrating. So I don't want you to have to do that. So again, I'm going to finish this nail because we followed through, right? We followed through. So we're going to follow through on this nail here, right around the cuticle area. I'm going to pat that right into place. It's a nice size bead. It transitions into the other bead that I just laid, giving me time to work it because I got my liquid to powder ratio correct. So it's perfect. We're going to swipe that right on down the nail. All right, I had to come back. I had to leave, come back. But bringing that right down the nail, you can still fix a nail. You really, really can. But of course, as you know, we try to grow and learn. We want to make sure that we cut out a lot of things that's going to take a whole bunch of time, and not placing beads where they belong. That's going to take a whole bunch of time, and it's going to frustrate you and make you feel like you're not doing nails correctly. And this is not that it's not correct. However, if you're working on time and wanting to be a little bit faster, there's tips that you can do to make that happen. So I'm just hoping to show y'all. So here I want to show you how I actually do a nail, and it is in real time. I think I edited just a couple things just to cut out the wait time or the wait of me grabbing a bead, or I think I was at the store and maybe I was helping somebody. So you might see some cuts and edits, but as you can see here, I laid that bead, and it's like a small to medium type of bead, or small, I guess you would say, and I laid it far enough down so I could be able to bring that down. As you can see, I'm taking my brush and I'm lightly walking that bead down the nail. I want to make sure I get it all the way to the end. That's going to save a lot of time on the nail. And I think on this one, I think I did this for a different video of like talking about transitions, and I think I used quite a few more beads than I usually would. But either way, we want to be sure that our transitions are correct. That's just the most important thing right now. Then we can worry about how many beads we use. We do a 1 bead method, 2 bead method, 3 bead, whichever one. And as you can see right here, I put that bead right above the previous bead, and I'm blending it in, transitioning it into the other bead. It's eliminating lumps and bumps. It's making my foundation really nice and smooth. And the biggest thing is I'm taking my time, but that's how you do it. And then we're going to lay our other bead. This is not going to be the cuticle bead because, again, like I said, this was a video that really hit on transitions, and I thought I would use the full video for a more in-depth video. So they're going to see me grab a medium bead. Sorry, y'all. I've been doing this video thing at home on the weekend, so I've been drinking a little bit. All right. Anyway, you're going to take that medium bead. You're going to put it right above the previous bead again, and you see I'm patting it into place before I even start swiping it down. I do that for 2 reasons. One reason, I don't want to start swiping right away because the bead is still kind of wet, so if I start swiping it right away, I'm just going to flatten that nail. I want to be sure to lay that bead down, pat it into place a little bit just to make sure I try to build my apex, and then I'm going to start swiping it down. So that's why I do that, and I leave it into place a little bit. Now, the cuticle bead, a lot of people have issues. What I always tell people, do not set the cuticle bead directly at the cuticle. It is so important. That's why I said it like that. It is very important. You want to take your brush, and as you can see, I'm kind of pushing it up into the cuticle as far as I want it to go, but I'm patting it as well to kind of dry that bead up or soak up some of that liquid so it's not runny, because if it's runny, it's going to fall right into that cuticle area, and it's going to cause flooding. So that is my tips and tricks. I really hope I helped y'all. This is my bubble bath from E&L Nail Supply. So you guys check it out. Hope this video helped.